Okay, I wanted to try and make a quick video. We'll see how quick it is. As kind of a preface and wrapping up some things that have to do with a different video that you haven't seen yet. It's about 13 minutes long, I think, but it does go into some depth and explain some things that I've been alluding to for the past year, mainly about my social media accounts, why my YouTube went unlisted for the most part, why I had to privatize my FK Arts Instagram, and then why I made a second Instagram that was public, and then why I've deleted that now. Well, it will be deleted soon, within the next day or two. And then this Instagram is going public again, and I'm just going to have the one. So that explains all that. But I wanted to talk about podcasts for a second, because this whole topic kind of explains, like I said, it's kind of a preface to the video that you haven't seen yet, and also kind of wrapping some things up, because I didn't bring up the podcast in there, and I want to reference that. Not the podcast, but podcasts in general. Not general, multiple podcasts that I've been a part of, put it that way. Okay, so first off, I've been making YouTube videos for a couple years, and I've had them there, and I was doing a vlog every week, and I was also doing a conversation every week. I've done a bunch of other videos too, other different types, so some art process videos where you can see me painting and whatever, some instructional videos where I talk about painting and process, and it's not just showing the process, but it's explaining step by step certain things, like stretching canvas or whatever. I did some reviews. I had a thing called a 2-cent rant, where it was just me ranting about stuff, and I found that wasn't useful after a while, so I stopped doing it. But yeah, I did some book reviews and music reviews, podcast reviews even, some fun things like that. Mountain bike videos were a huge thing for me last year. I got really into doing those, and I wanted to do more because people actually started using them in the Lethbridge area and found them to be, well, useful for the trails and knowing what they're going to find out there. I'm sure there's a couple other things, behind the curtain videos where I talked about like the process of vlogging and what that was doing, and yeah, so I can't think of any other kinds right now, but I'm sure there's another section or something that I'm missing. But a whole bunch of videos. And one thing though that I've kept consistent this whole time is doing a vlog every week and doing a conversation every week. I need to talk about the conversations real quick, because that just leads into this whole other thing. So I found that the conversations were really useful. It's usually 90% of the, if not more of the time, me and the camera, and that's it. And I found that was a great way for me to do some external processing and learn about myself, discussing a topic, and sometimes while I'm just verbally speaking about it out loud, I start to understand myself better and learn more about how I relate to that subject. And it's been really useful. And there were times where I involved other people in that process too, because I love having conversations with people. I find it just really great. So at some point I decided, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some of these videos, like conversations, into a podcast form. Just extract the audio, make it an MP3, and put it on my own personal podcast. So I did that with some reviews as well, and some 2-cent rants, but all the conversations are there. That's something that I never chose to privatize, and that kind of gets explained a little bit later. It's also why I never really advertised it that much in this past year. So they've still been going up, and that's been public, and it still is. So the podcast is called Artist Personal Journalist. And explaining the name real quick, I love Sage Francis. He's got an album called Personal Journals, and in an intro to a song, he says personal journalist when he's describing himself, and I just really like that. I wanted this podcast to kind of, the title to reflect, who I am and what I'm doing, and Artist Personal Journalist just made sense. So if you want to check that out, it's there. It's a lot of me just talking about subjects, trying to figure myself out and explore them a bit as they pertain to me. Sometimes I go a little bit like wider scope, and it's not just like right here close to the chest. And sometimes I talk about some larger topics that are more societal things, but frequently it's more personal than not. So I wanted to talk about that because that was a podcast that's just been there the whole time. And I'm going to get back to that to end things off here as kind of an intro into the other video. But I also at one point started a podcast called Artist Life. And it was a podcast that I was doing with an old friend. And after that friendship ended, then it shouldn't be that hard for me to say after that friendship ended, then I decided to keep doing it by myself. And I found that that wasn't doing very well. That dynamic, for some reason, I just found that it wasn't working. I just couldn't figure out, it was taking me too long to figure out, or maybe to put the time and energy into being able to do an art podcast alone. I didn't like doing it alone. It wasn't serving the same purpose as like a conversation. It was more of like, it was way more structured, because it felt like it would have to be more structured. Whereas if I'm having a conversation with someone else, we can bounce ideas off each other. There's a little bit of structure, maybe some research ahead of time, whatever else. But it flowed really natural, and it was fun and whatever else. And I tried to do it alone, and it just wasn't working. So I stopped. Then later on, I had a partner who was amazing and very creative and an artist in very different ways than me, even with referring to themselves as an artist. So at some point, we decided to start our own podcast, which has been Art Ballad, which is something that I've been pushing for a while now. It's been, I think, maybe not quite a year, but around there, and that has stopped. I don't, at this point, want to start another art podcast. I just don't. I would like to talk about art more so than I was before, because I've got things to say about it, and I don't know if I'll be just talking about those things in the vlog, or if I'm going to make like a new section that's like art talk. Maybe that's just what it'll be called, like art talk. And every once in a while, if I feel like I can talk about some stuff there or whatever, then maybe I will, and that'll be its own kind of themed video / podcast thing on the YouTube and on Artist Personal Journalist podcast. It'll just be its own theme. So that's that. I really enjoyed Art Ballad a lot. I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot. It was just an amazing time. It was really great, and I'm sad that that's not something that's going to continue for the foreseeable future. And I just don't want to do another one. Not just because it wasn't successful the first time I did it, because I could put more energy and stuff into it. I don't want to necessarily put the energy into it right now. I don't know if I ever will. And I just found it was just, it pains me to think about trying to do that on my own right now. So I don't want to. And it's just not a priority for me. I want to step back to Artist Personal Journalist and kind of, step back and kind of go into some detail that'll widen things out, is being an intro to this next video. So I gave it that title because I wanted it to reflect, where I felt I was at and who I am and why I do the things I do and why I express myself the way I express myself and what I've come to learn about myself and why I do things the past couple of years in relations to anxiety and external processing and things like that, and just expression and connection. So there's a quote here that kind of describes this really well. And so I'm going to read that real quick. That's why this book has been in my hand. I just stumbled upon this quote yesterday, so it just kind of expresses it nicely. It's Francis Ford Coppola, director and producer and whatever else. That's part of the requirement for me to be an artist, is that you're trying to share your personal existence with others and trying to illuminate modern life, trying to understand life. So that really encapsulates what I have been doing and what I want to keep doing. And this is why it relates, you could say like, oh, why does your vlog and your conversations and how does that stuff relate to this, you being a visual artist? I believe that I'm more than a visual artist. I believe that this is why I include some of the pages that I write while I'm trying to work things out and figure them out on my Instagram. It's not because like, oh, this is great creative writing and I'm an author and it's like, it's this story that's really art. Like, no, I feel like sometimes just living and trying to figure things out is a form of art. And some of that stuff just sounds really pretentious, and I know that. But this is why I wanted to talk about the art podcasts, because they were way more, those, Artist Life and Art Ballad were very much about like talking about, visual art, photography, whatever more traditional art forms, movies and other things, and we wanted to talk about books and stuff like that as well. But Artist Personal Journalist is just me trying to figure myself out. However, that very much relates to me as an artist and my output as an artist, whether it be just abstract paintings or portraits or whatever. To me, is all one thing. So that podcast exists. You can check that out as for the foreseeable future, it'll be the only podcast that I do for a while or whatever. And like I said, I might have some like art talk stuff on there if I can figure out a way to do that, so that I'm satisfied with it. But again, there's another video that's going to come out today or tomorrow that's going to explain things a lot further as to why things have been the way they've been the past year, kind of some reasons and explanations, and also a little bit of what's happening moving forward. But yeah, I wanted to talk about podcast stuff because I didn't mention it there. And yeah, kind of explain, you know, that piece that it's going to get into with self-expression and connection, and why I'm so drawn to doing those things in the way that I do them, and why it's important to me, and me figuring myself out and learning and growing as a person. So that's it. So I wanted to try and make a quick and to the point video. I don't know how long this is going to take, explaining some of the social media stuff that's been going on with me the past half a year or so. One being the second Instagram that I had that was public, and why before then, many months before then, I made this one private, and why it is now public again and the other one's gone. Another thing I wanted to talk about was having to unlist like 90% of my YouTube videos, other than a couple instructional things, reviews, and my biking videos. So the bulk of what I do is a vlog and a conversation every week, and I've had to unlist those so that only people with links could see them. And why I had to do that, and why those are open again. I've been really vague about some things, and I feel like I have to continue to do that a little bit just to preserve some privacy for individuals in my life that I still really care about. But I want to... Here's the problem with being so expressive the way that I am. I believe we all censor things all the time. We choose what to leave in and what to exclude, and I don't tell people every single shred of detail about my life. I don't really think that anybody does. But I like to be a lot more open than I have been the past while. So if we start with my Instagram account, or just the way I express myself as an artist. Sometimes that's through writing. Or let's just talk about both, with writing and just having ideas, talking things out. So working things out through writing, or in the conversations that I was having on YouTube, that I still have, they were unlisted for so long, is part of me just trying to work things out. I find that external processing really works for me. So expressing myself is how I understand myself a lot better, whether it be through visual art, or through writing things out on paper, or through talking out loud verbally to just the camera, or sometimes talking to other people too, definitely helps. And it's not necessarily the feedback I get, even though I love conversation and want feedback and discussion, but me just saying things out loud helps me to process them, understand them better, understand myself better. So in doing that, some of the things that I would write about had to do with my anxiety, had to do with things that were going on, like things that go on in my life, right? Me trying to work these things out. And usually I'm writing when I'm in a state that is strong, that this is on my mind, I really want to get this out. It's usually not a very passive state. It's usually like, this is a strong feeling that I have, and I want to write about it, and I want to try and figure things out while I write about it. So some of those things, are just life. Like some of those things are discussing mental health, are talking about, new responsibilities and roles and positions that I found myself in, and growing. Like the whole point of this was to learn and grow and to figure things out for myself so that I can be a more positive, just be a better me in general with whatever those roles may have been. Same thing with the conversations that I was having on YouTube, and the podcast has still kind of kept going. Artist, Personal Journalist, that podcast is just the audio from those conversations that I post on YouTube. And I discussed a lot of things there about different struggles that I was having. But again, those struggles, giving those a voice and expressing the troubles that I was having
is me trying to get better, is me talking things out, is me saying, this is hard, or this is new, and I'm having difficulty, and this is a thing that I don't understand. And incredibly rarely would I get any feedback. I wish that I got more on anything that I post at all, whether it be a painting, a podcast, a video, a piece of writing, whatever. And it really pained me to censor the content that I posted. So I didn't want to do that anymore. So instead of censoring the content that I posted, what I started to do was just privatize my social media so that it wasn't accessible by everybody. So I wanted to keep expressing myself and getting that stuff out, but the audience that I had for that shrunk to a tremendous degree because I had to privatize things. And a lot of these things that I'm expressing, it's really difficult for me just as the artist that I am, the kind of artist that I am and kind of just person I am. I like to express things with the knowledge that somewhere someone will be taking that in. And it helps me feel connection, even though it might be just one-sided. So even though I love feedback and I complain sometimes about not getting it and people aren't interacting with things and whatever, it does help me just to know that it's out there, that I didn't keep it here, that it's out there. And so to get to the thick of it, in the only way that I can feel right about doing it right now is that there were some issues where somebody was going through a process of taking some legal actions, and they were using my content as evidence of me being a negative. It was basically like a character reference. My own content was a character reference as to me being a negative influence in their endeavors for what they wanted, which I would hope that any person of sound mind or had any semblance of logic and rationale, especially as a judge or legal person, would see that and realize that that's stupid, that's not what's happening, that there's context that's being twisted and whatever else. But I didn't want to take that gamble anymore. It was really difficult for that long period, like I said, and now I feel like things have changed to a certain degree where I feel more comfortable with putting this information out there. It was supposed to be temporary and only temporary. And there was a lot of fear there, and that was the thing, irrational fear, because I know that not everyone's rational. I didn't feel like the content that I was putting out there could be judged accordingly with only bits and pieces sometimes and not a full context, and there was a lot of twisting going on, and I can't trust anybody to look at things in a rational light. So again, these musings that I had, these topics that I was talking about, where I go into dark places, where I do the dirty work of trying to understand myself better and be a better person by talking about these things I'm struggling with, those things got twisted and they were, again, being used for nefarious purposes. I didn't want to give them any more fuel, so I did my best to lock down my stuff. That is the reason that has changed over the course of time, why I privatized things that used to be public. Now, I eventually made a public Instagram, so it was a second Instagram, which I was really hesitant on doing, but it's because I wanted more exposure as an artist. So I tailored the content to be a little different there. If I felt that there was something that could be twisted and misconstrued and whatever else on my now private FK Arts, which is, now public again, then I saved it for that one because it was private, and then I put something different on the public account, or I didn't put whatever. I just didn't put that content on there. But I wanted to be able to use hashtags and locations and interact with people and make connections and be part of the local artistic community via Instagram and social media. I wanted that, so I felt like I was missing out on opportunities because I couldn't network the same way virtually that I used to be able to, and people couldn't see my stuff. When you have a private account and use a hashtag, it does nothing. No one sees it. So anyway, that's basically all I have to say about it. I'm still a little hesitant to pull the trigger on this, so as of me recording this right now, I don't know when I'll actually make the move to make my things public again, but I feel like enough time has passed, and it was never meant to be something that happened as long as it did, and I've had to wait for certain things, and now I just have realized that that this is just it seems to be the right time. If there ever was one, it doesn't feel like the right time yet. It just feels like if it has to be done eventually, there's never going to be a right time. That's what it feels like. It feels like I don't know when a right time will be. I don't know when these matters will end, where someone would, I don't know how to explain it without getting into it. So I feel like there's enough distance from certain things where this person can't really use this material and twist it anymore, because certain relationships and things, saying I'm a negative influence, if I'm no influence at all, then this can't be a thing that they use because I have no influence anymore. So I feel that it is safe for all parties involved right now for me to make this move. So that's a really long explanation, and if you stuck with it, then great. But I wanted to provide an explanation as to why my social media stuff has changed, and I want to bring it back to where it was. I feel like I'm still a bit crippled from things, in the sense that I've had to censor a lot of things for so long. I like to be very open about things when it's my life, but the thing is that my life and my situations and whatever includes relationships with people, whether it be friendships or romantic relationships or whatever. So for me to talk about those things, it also involves somebody else's life. If they want to keep their life more private than I want to keep mine, then it provides a source of an opportunity for conflict. Let's put it that way. And I don't want to, betray anyone's trust. I don't want to, whatever. I just felt like this was a sacrifice that I made for a long time, and there's a lot of things that I've wanted to talk about that I haven't been able to talk about, and I had to be very vague and whatever else, and now I feel like I'm able to shed a little more light on that. Moving forward, it's still going to be a little cautious on my end with what I say and how I say it, but some major life changes have happened, and I wish that I could talk about it more right now, but in the coming months, I don't know. I'm still in the midst of things. Things are still very fresh. So anyway, that's all I have to say right now. And everything will open back up. So all the YouTube videos, all the past ones, will be public again by the time you're looking at this. My public art Instagram will be deleted, and this one will be made public. And that's really all I've got to say about that. So we'll see you at another time.
Okay, so I want to explain a couple things really quick. This is going to be the last video today explaining social media changes and stuff. This one is going to explain some of the technical difficulties I've had and what's really frustrating, and also something I call altering my what did I call it? Altering evidence of your history, which I've been doing a lot of recently, and that's something I want to address. So first things first is I can get really OCD about some stuff. I think that it gets really strong with just a couple things, and this is one of them, is things not working the way that I want them to work when it comes to things like order, like chronological order. If I want things here's the thing, if it's manual, if it's like, oh, my books, like my books are in the order I want them to be in, kind of. If I wanted my DVDs in alphabetical order, I can do that. That's up to me to figure out. When it comes to technology, on the other hand, sometimes that screws things up real bad. So first thing, my Instagram, I had to unlink my old FK. I had to unlink my one FK Arts Instagram account from Facebook because it was syncing my stories, and I liked that. And I had to unlink that, and that took forever. I've been doing stuff with social media for hours and hours and hours and hours today. I wanted to get to the studio, haven't been able to do that yet. Anyway, so I tried to unlink it, I tried to delete the account, and then it still wouldn't unlink. So I figured out a way to do it. Finally, I have this account linked to my Facebook FK Arts page, and it's supposed to be syncing my stories, and it's not. Hopefully that's just something with time that it'll just figure itself out, because I have really done all that I can do, exhausted my options there, and it's supposed to work and it's not, and everything says that it's synced the way it should be. I'm just hoping that figures out, and if it doesn't, I just don't know what to do. What's frustrating me a lot more is my YouTube. So there's hundreds of videos that I had to make public that were unlisted, and so I don't want to get too technical into the I don't know what to call it, just the video editor station of YouTube, but the back end. So basically, you can do 50 videos at a time to make these changes, and for the first hundreds of them, they were all going public in the order they were published originally. So that's perfect, because even though they're all in playlists and you can see them in chronological order there from like newest to oldest, they also get added to a section which is just called uploads, just videos. And that's how when I go to someone's channel, that's how I like to view their stuff. Like, what's the newest video? I don't care what playlist it's on right now. I want to see what's the newest one, and then kind of whatever. That's just how I like to view it. I'm sure other people do as well. However, the last 46 to 50 videos did not get published in their correct publication date. I have tried so many things for hours, and it just won't work. They are just incorrect. So there's like, oh, the newest video, it's like a week old, and then the one after that is like 3 weeks old, and then there's like 2 days old, and like, 5 weeks old, and like, it's just like for 46 to 50 videos, that's what it's doing. So they're not in chronological order. It's a huge mess, and I can't do anything about it. In playlists, they're in order, but in just the regular uploads and videos section, they are completely out of sorts. It's really frustrating. I can't let it go, and yet there's nothing else I can do about that either. I've tried many, many, many things. Now, when you get into like Facebook and Instagram, which are tied together, when you get into YouTube and Google, which are the same thing, you can't get any tech support. With these huge companies, there's no tech support available. They just say, oh, you want some help? We'll just go to the forum. Other people have probably had this problem, and someone's probably solved it. And that's it. And there's some things that just I've never gotten solved. There's issues that I've had with Facebook and stuff that have never been corrected. And you just got to let it go, which I'm really bad at doing. With some things, it's easier. Things like this, not so much, because this is going to be there for as long as I want it to be there. These YouTube videos and stuff, they're just going to be there forever. And if someone wanted to be like, oh, wow, I want to go back and watch, like, in order, then all of a sudden they're going to get to these videos and they're going to be all mixed up, completely out of order. And that really is annoying. Yeah, so with YouTube specifically, you can actually get tech support. You have to be a partner, though, and you can't be a partner unless you have thousands of subscribers, which I do not. So therefore, screw me and the quality of my channel and everything else. I just don't count. So that's really frustrating, and I just have to leave it, hope that somehow it sorts itself out, but I really don't think so. Whereas the syncing issue with Instagram stories to Facebook, I think that will sort itself out, but the YouTube thing, I just don't think it'll get fixed. So it'll remain that way, and that's really annoying, and no one, unless you watch this, is going to know that, and not many people are going to watch this. This is going to, all these videos I've been posting on Instagram today, the 3 of them, this being the last one, are going to get put into one video, a behind the curtain video that'll be on the YouTube channel. Anyway, last thing, altering evidence of your history. I just want to say that it's difficult to make that call sometimes, to do that when I don't like to erase people from my digital persona or my history, right? Like, there are going to be chunks of my history that feel like they're missing because
I have privatized certain photos or albums on Facebook or whatever else because I just feel weird about them being public right now and just want them just for me. And in the past, there are things I've deleted and whatever else. Now, from my recollection, my YouTube is the purest thing, which is also the most, purest in the fact that I haven't altered that digital history. I haven't deleted any videos. Everything is there. Relationships of different kinds that have ended and whatever else, it's just there, and that's just, I want it to just be, I don't want to alter that type of history. I've censored it enough with not being able to do certain things that I wanted to do, not being able to include certain people and certain experiences that I wanted to include in the past year. I've censored it enough, and I don't want to do that anymore. So, but as for whatever is been up there, I definitely don't want to censor that. Or delete it or whatever. So it's something that I have a difficult time with, and I wanted to acknowledge it. I do have a conversation about it. So it's in podcast format, Artist Personal Journalist. You can find it in the link tree here as well, or just search it up through that title. And there is an episode that talks about that, that talks about altering evidence of your history. And there's a conversation in the YouTube playlist for conversations as well. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. That's what's happening. I've been spending all day on it. I'm going to have to stop and just move on to something else. And it's frustrating and annoying, and I wish that this wasn't a thing. But for many reasons it is, and I guess I just got to deal with it somehow.